Okay, bye. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am filming a updated brow routine, and along with that I am sharing with you guys a lot of tips and tricks, product recommendations, basically everything you need to know on how to find your perfect brow. I find watching people do their brows in general slightly boring because it's such a repetitive thing. I honestly never show me doing my brows in videos because I find it to be kind of boring. But I did a poll on my Instagram a little while ago, which if you're not following me on Instagram, go follow me. It's down in the description box. I do a lot of polls there so I can get your guys' opinions on videos and stuff. Also, I'm doing a challenge and I'm posting a new makeup look every day for quarantine. So go show some love and support. And if you have any questions about my makeup details today, that will be on my Instagram. Anyways, I did a poll asking for video recommendations and I got a few for a brow routine. So that's what I'm doing for you guys today, but I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting and informative, and also talk about just tips and tricks I've learned over the years on finding your perfect brow and like shade matching. And it's gonna be a good video for beginners. It's gonna be good for anyone who kind of wants to see my brow routine, or if you just want to learn some new tips or tricks. Basically all of that is in this video. Now I'm gonna start off talking about some products and just giving recommendations and like what products are good for what kind of look and all of that stuff. So if you're just here for the brow routine, I'll have a timestamp on the screen for you, so you can just skip to that, so you can just watch that part of the video. To make this as informative as possible and really good for anyone who's just kind of starting out with brows, I basically took it upon myself to kind of make a list of which brow products are good for what category they're in, if they're beginner, mid-level, advanced, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to share that with you guys today. So there is 3 levels for brow products: beginner, mid-level, and advanced. This is just my personal opinion, but over the years I've used all of these types of products. So I feel like I have a good understanding of kind of where I would rate them based on like how long it took me to kind of learn how to use it properly. So first thing to start off with is the beginner. Now, this is not to say that this is just for people who are at this level. Like if you're just starting out, this isn't only products for you. Basically, this just means it's easy products to use, and it's also going to give you a natural brow. So whether you are a beginner who's just starting out with brows, or if you're someone who's been doing brows for a long time but you're just looking to find the most natural way to do them, this is where you would probably want to look. So under the beginners category, I have brow powders and brow gels. Both of them are going to create very natural, soft, subtle looks for you, and also very easy to use. So I have a list of products in front of me for each kind of category. So for powders, one that I have that I really like is the Benefit Foolproof Powder. Now another option is the Anastasia Brow Duo. There's tons of options. I'm just kind of giving you guys 2 of each so that you can have a good understanding. And I focus a lot on Benefit and Anastasia because I feel like they're very well known in the makeup industry for their brow products. So that's why I'm sharing those ones specifically. So you can see it has 2 different shades, 2 different tones. Now the reason for this, the darker shade is going to be for the outer half of your brow. The lighter shade is going to be for the inner part. And that's what's going to create a nice ombre effect, going from the light to dark. If you use the dark shade from here to here and it's all the same intensity, you're going to have a very thick looking brow. It's going to be very intense and dark and not subtle and soft. I should also put out there, this is just my opinions. You can do your brows however you want to do your brows. If you like a thick, darker looking brow, nothing is wrong with that. Makeup is makeup. There is no rules in makeup, and you can do whatever you want. These are just my tips and my tricks. So yeah, that's kind of that product. It does come with like a little brush you can use as well. This is a 12-hour formula, but it does not claim to be waterproof, smudge proof, or water resistant. So it's not going to be a super long wearing. This is something that if someone was to go and take their finger across your brow, it's going to smudge because it's not a long wearing heavy duty product. It's really good for soft, natural brow looks. Now the Anastasia Brow Duos is also another option. That one has the 2 different tones as well. That one claims to be a sheer to medium coverage, and it does claim to be smudge proof. The powder is also not going to be great for people who have a lot of sparse areas that are lacking hair that need extra kind of filling in. The powder is not going to adhere to your skin as well as it would to actual hair. For me, I have a pretty sparse area on the top of my arch here. If I were to use powder to try to fill that in, you will very clearly see that there is no hair there, and you will very clearly see the powder. So it's not going to be great for people who have a lot that needs to be filled in. It's also not going to be good if you're trying to like redraw brows, reshape them, anything like that. It's just not really made for that. Now, if you do have quite a few sparse areas, but you are wanting to use the powder, an option is a brow wax. There is palettes such as the Benefit Brow Zings. It has a brow wax in it. Now, it is a larger palette. It has 4 different powder colors and 3 different waxes. It's not just like a little duo. You can probably find some. I didn't see any like duos on Sephora, but drugstore you might be able to find some options. So that is a full palette, but it is going to be really good if you are someone who maybe changes your hair color a lot and you want to have different shades to kind of match. Or if you are a makeup artist or you're getting into that, it's also really good because then you can kind of match it for really anyone's skin tone. But basically what the brow wax is going to do is kind of create that layer for the powder to adhere to. So it's going to give you a more voluminous brow, a more fuller brow, and it's also going to be better for filling in sparse areas. And it's also going to make the powder last longer as well. Now, moving into brow gels, also a beginner-friendly product and super easy to use. There's a couple different options for this as well. So we have the Anastasia brow gel, and then I also have the Benefit Gimme Brow. Now, the difference between the two, basically, they're both tinted, they both have color. You can even do a clear one if you're wanting super, super natural. A clear one is just basically going to comb through your brows, kind of set them into a shape, into the place that you want, but it's not going to add any color. Anastasia one is a 12-hour wear, and it also claims to be waterproof. The thing with this one is there's no fibers in it, whereas the Benefit Gimme Brow, it's water resistant and long wearing, and it has tiny microfibers in it, which allow it to be a more buildable product. Basically what the fibers are actually doing is like adding extra volume. When you use this, it's going to make your brows look more full and voluminous and like you have a lot more hair. This is going to be probably a better brow gel for people who maybe have sparser areas. It'll help to kind of cover that, but you do need actual brow hair to put over this. It's not going to just adhere to skin, but it's a really good, quick, just everyday product to use. I'm someone who feels like I need to have something on my brows if I'm going out, so I would just quickly throw on some brow gel and like fill in the other areas with a pencil, and then I'm good to go. I have super natural brows. Now, moving into the mid-level, I would categorize pencils in the mid-level because they do take a little bit of learning. It's not necessarily a product that's like foolproof right away, but they're not super hard to learn either. I feel like they're a very popular brow product in general. You just kind of have to get the right like motion down when using it. So for pencils, we have ones such as like the Brow Wiz from Anastasia or the Benefit Precisely My Brow Pencil. Those ones are both like very slim, tiny pencils. I don't have either of those on me, but I do have a Sephora collection one. You can kind of see how thin and tiny. My camera very rudely stopped recording on me and I didn't know this. So I had been talking for the last 20 minutes and none of it was recorded. Please tell me I was filming. I don't really remember what I was saying at this point. Basically, a brow pencil like this is going to be really good for getting a very defined line, very defined shape, really easy to fill in sparse areas. You can get a natural look with it by just being a little bit lighter handed, doing more of those kind of stroking methods to create those hair light strokes. You can get a thicker, darker looking brow if you're just a little bit heavier with it. So it's a good versatile product, really easy to use once you kind of learn the right like pressure. We also have a bit of a thicker brow pencil. This is the Goof Proof Brow Pencil from Benefit. Anastasia has one very similar. It's called the Brow Definer. So you can see there it's a lot wider and thicker than the brow pencil, and it almost has like a triangle shape to it. So this is going to be really good for really quickly filling in your brows. Because of its size, you can fill your brows in quite quickly. The only thing with it is because it is thicker, it can be a little bit harder to be super precise and get like a really thin line. Concealer can help clean that up. or I like to kind of use both. I'll use this to kind of outline my brow and get my shape, and then I use this to kind of fill it in. The Benefit one is 12-hour wear and it's also waterproof. Now the Anastasia one doesn't claim to be either of those. Anastasia does say that it's recommended for areas, like for sparse areas, because you can really quickly fill that area in along with the rest of the brow, so it's a quick way to do it. It's all about learning the pressure and like the technique of using the product. Now moving on to the more advanced side, we have pomades, creams, and like liquids. We have like the Anastasia Dip Brow, or we have Benefit Ka-Brow. This is going to be the most long wearing brow option. Both of them are smudge proof, waterproof, and 24-hour wear. They're really good for people with oily skin, or if you live in a really humid climate, because it's not going to sweat off, it's not going to move or budge. If you're going swimming and you feel like you want to have something on your brows, it's going to last through that as well. So really great longevity to these products. Now, because they are creams, they're a little bit harder to use in the sense that it's very easy to go overboard with them. It's very easy to get dramatic brows very quickly if not used properly. A little goes a long way with creams. I really recommend taking the time to play around with these before you decide to like use it the morning that you're going out somewhere. You just have to learn like light pressure, less is more, those kind of things. Once you kind of get that down, it's probably my favorite brow option just because I like the bolder brows and this really gives it to me. I also like it because with creams, normally you have to buy a brush. So when you pick your brush, you can get one that's really thin or you can get one that's a lot thicker. I usually use one that's very slim and thin, and you can be super precise with it and get really nice like straight lines. There will be times if I'm being quick, I can get a straight enough line that I don't have to really worry about touching it up or cleaning it up or anything. It's good the way it is. There is also options like Urban Decay has a brow blade where one side is a pencil and it is waterproof. The other side is a liquid stain. Essentially, it's supposed to give a microbladed effect. It is going to be a little bit harder to use. I haven't personally used it, but I would imagine it'd be a little harder because it's a liquid. So it's even, I would say it's probably going to be even easier to get out of hand than the creams, because at least the creams are a little bit more fixable. But with things like a liquid, when it's supposed to dry down, it's going to be a little bit harder to fix. So that what I would say is a bit more of an advanced technique as well. Now another option, this one's not sold at Sephora, but it's the iconic London brow cushion. If you've ever heard of foundation cushions, this is basically what that is. Just looks like that. It has the two different shades. Essentially, it's a liquid as well, and it's going to do the same thing and kind of give that microbladed effect. I'll show you guys kind of what that looks like. So you can see it's quite intense right off the bat. So again, a product that you kind of have to learn how to work with. A lot of times too, like liquids don't always give kind of an even coverage all the way. So something to kind of play around with, but if you're looking for a microbladed effect, that's a great option. Now, other products that I wanted to talk about, they're not like for actually filling in your brows or giving color, but I feel like they could be an extra tool that would be really helpful. Anastasia has a brow primer. So I was looking on Sephora and I couldn't find anything that had a wax, like a duo, so you didn't have to buy a full palette. But Anastasia had this brow primer, which essentially is like a wax in a stick. And it's going to do the same thing as a wax. It's going to help the product adhere to any sparse areas and your brow in general. It's going to help the longevity of it because it's a wax and it's a primer. And it'll help create fuller brows as well because you're adding that extra kind of layer of product. And it'll just help with any product that you put over top of it to make it last longer. But going to be really good, especially for anyone who is wanting to like use a powder or even like a pencil and you feel like it's just not covering the sparse areas. You can try that out. This is another option I really like. It's the Benefit Browvo Conditioning Primer. It's similar to the Anastasia one, but this one's actually a gel. It's not a like a wax. You can see that it's coming out of the top there. This is going to do more for your brows than just like the regular primer. What you're going to do with it is put it on your brows before any product, let it dry, and then put your product over top. It's going to do the same thing as Anastasia one. It's going to help fill in sparse areas. It's going to help the longevity of the product, and it's going to create fuller, thicker brows, which I can attest to this. It definitely does that. But it also has keratin and soy protein in it, so it is conditioning your brows as well. I've also heard from people that it helps hair growth with the brows. It doesn't claim to on the website, so don't take my word for it. But it does have those ingredients in there to kind of help with that. And it does say on Sephora that you can use this as a brow treatment at night and put it on before bed and sleep with it on. Just to kind of help condition your brows. So I really like this product as well. So that's all the product recommendations I wanted to talk about. Hopefully that wasn't boring, and hopefully you learned something from it, or it helped you kind of choose the right product for you. So now we're going to get into my brow routine and also talk about some tips and tricks on how to achieve the perfect brow for you. So as you can see, I have one brow done and one not. This is the difference. This one's not perfect yet. I'll perfect it once I have this one done so I can make sure that they match. But we're just gonna go ahead and start on this brow. So as I kind of show you guys my routine, I'm also gonna give you some tips along the way. So my first tip is to find a product that works for you and learn how to master it. And also making sure that you're using the right product to achieve the look that you want. So we already kind of went over the different types of products there were and like the level that I rated them at. And I also talked about which products are good for which kind of look. So go off of that and first figure out what product you want to use, and then from there use it consistently, use it every day, and just learn how to master it. A lot of it actually comes down to your technique. The way that you move your wrist, the pressure, those kind of things are going to help you achieve the perfect brow. Once you can kind of get that down, you can really bring it along to all the different products, because with all of them, it really depends on how much pressure you're putting and how you're moving your wrist. And by moving the wrist, I'll talk a little bit more about that when we kind of go into it. This is the Tarte Amazonian Clay Waterproof Brow Mousse, and this is in the shade Taupe. The only reason I'm using this is because now that my hair is like completely blonde, I don't have a color that actually matches right now, and I don't want to be giving you guys tips on like the perfect brow shade and like what you should and shouldn't do as I'm wearing a shade that doesn't match me. So this is all I have that's a close enough color. Taupe is usually a pretty safe color for blonde. It's not going to be super light, because as a blonde you still want to make sure that your brows are being seen. I naturally have darker brow hairs because I'm naturally more of a dark brown, but this is definitely a lighter color than what I have been using from Anastasia, the Dip Brow. And that brings me into tip number 2. Finding the right shade and undertone that matches your hair. That's going to help you achieve the most natural look. You want your brows to be definitely a focus of your face, but you don't want it to be the biggest focus, because normally when it's the biggest focus, it's because it doesn't look proper. If you're using a shade that is too dark for your skin tone, your hair tone, or the undertone is not correct, it's going to stand out a lot more and not in the right way. It's going to catch people's eye, but not for the right reason. You really want to make sure you're matching the right shade, but also really important is the undertone, because brow shades do have different undertones. So there can be cool, warm, and neutral undertones. So based on your hair color, decide what undertone you are and make sure that you are getting the correct tone. So Taupe naturally has a bit more of a neutral, ashy undertone to it, and I have a more platinum blonde that for the most part you can see is quite cooler toned. At least it's trying to be cool toned. So definitely with my undertone, I'm gonna want anything that's a little bit more cooler, ashy, or neutral. I want to kind of stay away from the warm tones. Naturally, if you have more cooler toned skin, cooler toned things are going to match better to you. Whereas if you use something more warmer tone on your cool toned skin, it's going to stand out a lot more. So we're gonna kind of start getting into this. Now, the Dip Brow, I did rate it as a more advanced brow product, but once you learn how to use it, it's a very easy product to actually use, and it's honestly my favorite. It just takes a little bit of practice and knowing how the product works. What you're gonna need is a really good, very slim angled brush. I'll give you a bit of a close-up so you can see how slim and angled this is. You want it to be fairly slim. This is going to give you the most precise application. This is the Sigma E75. I've had this for a really long time, but a good brow brush that I know of off the top of my head is from Anastasia. I believe it's double-ended as well, so it has a nice thin side like this and then a spoolie. They might have a couple different sizes, the thickness of it. I always just recommend the thinnest because you're going to be able to get the most precise look. I just take it, I dip it in a little bit. Now, with a product like Dip Brow, pomade, anything like that. Always start off with less and work your way up. It is much easier to add product than it is to take it away. Going in too heavy-handed at first is what's going to cause thick, dark-looking brow that you're trying to avoid. So what I do after I dip it in, I actually take it on a Kleenex and I just like kind of squeeze a little bit of the excess off. It thins out the brush a little bit and also takes off any excess product that I'm not going to need. Now, I'm already happy with my brow shape, but if you don't know if your brow is proportional, there is a way to help you out, like a little bit of a guide. So I believe this is Anastasia Beverly Hills trick on like the perfect brow, as they would quote. So basically, to show you where your brow should start, you're going to take your brush on the side of your nostril upwards and mark where your brow should start. So mine's pretty accurate. It starts right about there. You're going to take your brush from the side of your nostril here and then like directly point it up to your pupil and up from there, and that's where your arch should be. Try to draw a little line. And then from there, to find where it should end, you're going to take it from the very bottom of your pupil to the outside of your eye. So just like that. And that's roughly where my brow should end. So that's just a good trick to give you the best proportioned brow for your face shape. What I like to do is I start by kind of outlining my brow so that I have that guideline. Now, another thing is you want to avoid product in this area. As you can see on this side, this is very, very light and kind of like faded compared to the rest of the brow that has full pigment. And that's going to give you that natural kind of brow ombre look. So I always avoid this area. I start about a quarter in and I just kind of take it and start outlining my brow shape. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the top. And kind of connect the point there. Another tip is just basically keeping the arch rounded is going to give you a more natural look too. If you have a very sharp arch, like if I were to bring my arch up a lot more, kind of like a point, it's gonna look a lot more harsh and not very natural if you're going for a more natural looking brow. And then from there, I'm just gonna basically fill it in. Now that I've kind of outlined, I haven't picked up any more product. I'm gonna take the leftover product and add the outline for the front. I'm also very light-handed with this because you don't want it to be a harsh line. You want it to be quite soft and natural. Now I'm just going to fill in my brow, and I always start from the back and work my way forward. Once again, not bringing it in this area. I kind of wait until the end when I have like almost next to nothing on my brush, and then I just kind of flick a little bit in so it has a little bit of color, but it's still very faded. So I start here. You also want to kind of do like a flicking motion. It's going to create like hair-like strokes, and it's going to give you that more natural look. I kind of start doing that when I work my way here. For right here, I usually just worry about kind of getting it filled in. Don't worry about being super clean yet because I have a trick to fix that at the end. So I'm just going to work that product into my brow. I'm basically going to flip my brush to follow my natural hairs, how they're growing here because they grow upwards, and just add little flicks in. So you can see that there is this area here where I don't have as much hair. I'm going to go over that a little bit more just to kind of darken it. I'm just basically going over any areas that I feel need a little extra. Next thing I'm going to do is take a spoolie and I'm going to blend the product through. That's my next tip. Blend it through. It's going to take away any like extra product that's just kind of sitting there and give that more natural fluffy brow. So just like that. And then my next tip, it's probably the most important tip in my opinion, and it is to clean it up with concealer. This is going to make such a difference for your brows, I promise you. So you can use any concealer. I'm just using this e.l.f. one. More closer to your skin tone. You don't want it to be too light or too dark. And then you're gonna take a flat brush like this. So it's extremely flat and slim. Even if you're going for like a natural look, if you're just filling it in with powder or a gel, I still recommend doing this because it's really going to give you a clean looking brow. I've seen people who use a ton of concealer and like just go right in. I take a very little amount and take my time with this, but I always start off at the bottom, and because it's super flat, I just basically drag it along here and create a nice crisp line. So you can already see what a big difference that makes. Now from here, I basically am just going to be going in and adding anywhere that maybe I took a little too much off with concealer and just trying my best to make the two brows match. And then I will be right back. So that is how the brows are looking. Brows are sisters, not twins. I can never get my brows completely identical. I feel like everybody has a good brow and a bad brow, and this is my bad brow. It's just, it has a really bad bald spot kind of up top, and it's really short here, so I can't get it perfect. That's okay. They don't need to be completely 100% identical. So this is about as close as we're getting. But honestly, this brow is looking pretty good. You can see the concealer makes a big difference. And then my last tip is to set it with brow gel. Specifically when I'm using like a pomade or a cream product, I find that it really takes away the definition of the brow hairs. So setting it with a brow gel is really going to emphasize those hairs and add that volume back to your brows. So I'm going to go in with some Benefit Gimme Brow. Any brow gel will work for this. You can use tinted, you can use clear. I always, once again, start from the back with everything so that not much product is getting up front here. And then just lightly go over the front brow hairs. And the front ones I stroke up, they go their natural direction, and just like that. And it adds a lot of that like volume and definition back to your brows. So that's how I do my brows. So there is my updated brow routine for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that it helped kind of seeing how I do my brows. And hopefully you learned something from this video, whether you're a beginner or advanced with your brows already. I hope that you can take something away and try out on yourself, and hopefully this makes your brow routine a little bit easier. Brows are a struggle, and I've gone through many phases with them throughout the years. So I hope this helped. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, please give this video a thumbs up. Also subscribe to my channel. I'm posting a lot more content recently, and I would really love if you guys stayed around. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.